Hi, I'm Sharon Yager, the Outgoing Director for the Shrewsbury Council on Aging. I'm here with Walter Rice, our Outreach Coordinator, and Dr. Alan Cusher, who's a psychologist here in Shrewsbury. And we're here today to talk about the upcoming holidays. I know holiday season can be tough for a lot of people. There's a lot of pretty sappy movies out there and cheerful holiday cards that may not always sit well with some folks. For some folks, it can be a very painful time due to some family dysfunction or some painful holiday memories. So we thought we'd talk about that today and hopefully help folks prepare to thrive this holiday season. And at the end of this program, we're going to talk about a workshop that we'll have available at the Senior Center in November, and we'll give you the day and time of that program in which you'll be able to come and talk to Dr. Cusher and Walter in person and get some helpful tools to help you cope, enjoy, and thrive this holiday season. So Dr. Cusher, you've got a really good quote that I think will help start off this conversation. Do you want to share that?
Sure. So basically it's on the road of life, we are basically just walking each other home. And it's self-explanatory. We're traveling through life. As we get closer to the end, we kind of look backwards. We wonder how we got here. Sometimes we don't even remember how we got here and what we did. And we tend to start focusing on the memories of the past and focusing on memories that are more negative than positive, because negative memories are more easily accessed in our mind. They have negative emotion with them. So we tend to think of those and we dwell on those. And then during the holidays, we dwell on them even more because we associate the holidays with all sorts of memories. But the really big ones stand out in our mind, and who hasn't had a bad holiday experience at some point in their lives? But there are so many other reasons why people have sad feelings during the holidays.
I know, Walter, the two of you I know have talked before about some of the dysfunctional family situations that people can come across. And do you want to just kind of touch on some of the scenarios that we've talked about before with people that can, be exasperated by all the pressure on family activities during the holidays?
As Dr. Allen is saying, we're all on a journey and we're with family members. And oftentimes when we're with our family members, we're not on the same journey either, and so we get into crashes, whether they're automobiles, or crash our heads against one another, and we get very angry too. A lot of different type of sibling rivalry that goes on between them as to the first child or the only child versus more than one child in the family, and how they're looked upon, and the bonding that they have received, from their parents, and what their parents were able to do and not to do. And as Dr. Allen says, you hold on to those memories, and when you get together at Christmas or other holidays, that it just sets a trigger inside of you. For some reason, it automatically comes up and say, oh, there she is again, and you get so vivacious and angry. And for me, what's below all that anger is the pain and the sadness, you see. And because one is trying to be better than the other, and just the fact of just trying to accept one another for who and what they are, And that's a difficult process, and not an easy process, So I know I haven't spelt out any specific scenarios, but I think that's common for everyone, in many ways.
And Dr. Cusher, I know you had, again, another very appropriate saying about holiday expectations always live up to the negative however you worded that. I thought it was very appropriate if you want to talk more about that and why those negative feelings tend to be more prominent when there's sadness or difficulty coping with a family member or situation at this time of year.
Right. Well, the negative expectations live up. The negative parts of the holidays live up to our expectations better than the positive parts. And if you think about it, like we have positive memories and negative memories, and emotion is a deep trigger of memory. And so when we have a negative experience, it's usually oh my God, negative, tragedy or something bad happens, and that memory is stuck with us forever. The positive memories are sort of more benign, they're pleasant, they're, you're just going along and everything's okay. Those don't stick out in your mind as much. So when you look back at the holidays, you remember the time that you got into an argument with your brother or sister or spouse or another family member, and they stormed out of the house and ruined Thanksgiving or Christmas. But you don't remember all the times that everybody just sat there pleasantly and nothing really positive happened, but it was an absence of everything negative. So when we get to the holidays, we kind of will focus on those negative events, and we'll start thinking, that's going to happen again. And we also relive it because we can't change it. It's stuck in the past, and the past keeps creeping up on us. Eric Erickson is a psychologist, a developmental psychologist, and he had different theories about stages of development. And the final stage of development is our old age, which when he developed it was 60 years and beyond. And for most of us, that's not quite old age yet, but basically the issues for the final stage of development were integrity versus despair. So when a person thinks of integrity, they think of the good memories, the good things that they've had in life. And when they think of despair, they're thinking of the regrets, the bad experiences, the things that didn't go as well, the things they wish they had done, or the things they wish they had not done. And the focus is on those. And the more that those stand out, the more despair there is. You have to work a lot harder to find the integrity. You have to work a lot harder to remember whose lives you touched in a positive way, what things happened positively because of your existence. You talk about the sappy movies, It's a Wonderful Life. That's, like, if you think about it, that's a good example of, like, you just don't think of all the positive ways you've touched other people's lives. So that's a good thing that you can do for yourself. And during the holidays, we also tend to look at the things we've lost. So you lost relatives, you lost friends, you lost close family members. You may have spent 50 years with a husband or wife, and this is your first Christmas alone. Now you're with the rest of your extended family, but it's different. You don't have that partner with you. Or you may have lost a sibling, or you may have lost a child. And how do you go through Christmas without that family member? How do you get through Thanksgiving? What do you got to feel thankful for when you're grieving? All those things come into play during the holidays.
And building on that, Walter, about expectations, I know in dealing with some, again, people that might just not be in a place that they want to be with their family. They've got an estranged adult child, or they're not seeing their grandchildren, or maybe not even speaking to them or speaking to a sibling. Or how do you feel the season just kind of exasperates, trying to live up to a certain ideal, or having the holidays kind of exasperate all of those feelings of where things should be, or how everything is supposed to be happening during whatever folks are celebrating this time of year, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas, or not celebrating anything at all, but just being bombarded with everything family and everything seemingly rosy.
Well, along with what Dr. Cusher was talking about was the fact here that, our head, there's two interesting things. It has these memories. And so Christmas and Thanksgiving coming up touches up those memories. And then there's the other part of our mind. We have expectations too. What we would like and what we want and we're expecting, and when we don't get it, we get really disappointed, we get angry. And if we're not getting it from our family too, and what are we going to do? So either we don't go to the parties or we do go there, we don't talk to anyone. And we give eyes or we stick our tongue out at them, and make fun of them or whatever the case is, you know what I mean? And the hard part, the really hard part is, how can you accept them for just the way they are? They're doing the best that they can and they're having a hard time. And so from my perspective is, how do you first accept yourself so that you can accept them too, So that's why a lot of people come to my class there at the Senior Center for mindfulness meditation, for relaxation, and to understand these both components and just to learn how to just be in the present moment, and that there are going to be many times your triggers are going to come up in these memories, but rather than react, how can you just respond and just be present and just be present with what is? And if something's going to happen, maybe go walk away, time out, you see, or do something, other type of strategy, like that. So it's not an easy time. And so from my perspective, the challenges that you're going to get, they can help you to grow. And I know you probably heard the thing, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but that's not necessarily true, you say. So.
Very good.
You're actually spot on with that, and the you can use Christmas as a metaphor for life. The holidays as a metaphor for life. They're not what you expected. Life, a lot of people think of that. Life
Sure.
is not what did not turn out as they expected, and they're disappointed with it, and
Sure.
they expected more, and that's because they're not getting a balanced picture of their own life.
And along with that piece there is that, they're experiencing a lot of loss and a lot of pain, sadness, grief, whatever it is. From my perspective, what I like to share with people is to have pain become your friend, you see, so that you can learn from it as to what I need to be able to let it go, you see, so I can be more present. Because otherwise, what we're doing with that pain, we're just holding on to it, and, rather than being present with it, this is where I come from, this is what it was, but I'm right here, right now, you see. And the only real reality is just right here, you see, too. So, interesting challenge we got. Because I experience the same thing, too. Because my memories come up and I get triggered, too, as well, so.
That's mindfulness, right?
You got that right.
Yeah, and if we're mindful of just being in the present during the holidays and not trying to put them into a context of better or worse,
Sure.
just they're here.
Yeah.
They're here. Let's enjoy them. Let's experience them. Let's get everything positive out of them that we can, and let's accept the negative as it comes too.
Yeah. Along with that too, I share with people, can you stop your own internal war, that argument that's going on there, and make peace with that yourself so that you can just be present with what is, and so, I don't know, interesting challenge.
Oh, Dr. Cusher, I know sometimes people might be experiencing something that it kind of crosses the line, and it is something that should be spoken about with a healthcare professional, or somebody seeing someone they care about, a friend or a loved one, that they might feel their feelings or their behaviors may start being very unhealthy or worried about their safety. When should people really start to seek getting appropriate help or trying to approach somebody if they feel they're starting to that they're just holiday blues or whatever are starting to get a little too concerning?
Right. Well, one can try to monitor what their own symptoms are, but that's not always possible. So we look to caregivers and family members to do that as well. I mean, there's a couple of different experiences. One of them is like an actual clinical major depressive disorder. Another one may be what they called dysthymia. It's now called a persistent depressive disorder, or a life reaction to loss, which is more of a grief disorder. It's not even a disorder, it's just an experience of grief. And the things that differentiate those normal experience of grief and loss, or a more mild, persistent depressive condition from a major depressive disorder, is that with a major depressive disorder, you have feelings of sadness and depression every day for at least a 2-week period. And those affect your functioning. They affect your ability to think or concentrate, get out of bed in the morning. You may not eat as well, or you may eat more. You may sleep a lot more, or you may sleep a lot less. You may have feelings of not wanting to live. You may be constantly thinking of death. You may be thinking of suicide. You may also be not finding enjoyment in the things that you used to find enjoyment. Now, some of those are normal parts of aging, and they're due to loss of function or physical conditions. So you really have to be careful in differentiating those, and the big ones are thoughts of death and suicide, and not wanting to engage in activities or contact with other people. And when you see that in somebody that you're close with or that you know, those are the times to seek help. That kind of depression is treatable with medication and psychotherapy, and it's usually very treatable, but it has to be done by somebody who's qualified, a psychiatrist, gerontology, physician, or a nurse practitioner who prescribes, somebody who's familiar enough with how the body changes as we get older, because how you would treat somebody with medication at 40 is going to be different than how you treat them at 60 because of metabolism and those sort of things.
And particularly if there's interactions with other medications somebody might be on for a chronic condition or something that's developed as they've aged.
Right, and symptoms of depression can be brought on by those other medication side effects. So
you have a catch-22.
Right, so you really do need a medical doctor or a nurse practitioner to address that.
Well, thinking of the workshop that we're going to be having, I think we timed it a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. You'll both be talking to folks about some specific things they can do to help cope and thrive the holiday season. And Walter, I know you have some affirmations that you plan on explaining to folks, as well as explaining how to do a body scan to release that anger, negativity they might be feeling. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what you plan on teaching folks at the workshop?
Well, just to give them a hint, I'll tell you what maybe some of that is as you probably know, we get that negative critic in our head, you know? And what I tell people, that negative critic, none of it's true, because we create all that ourselves, you see. And so what I came to learn from a very wise gentleman, maybe about 30 years ago, and he taught me this affirmation with the group that I used to attend. It says, "I now dissolve and relinquish all negativity directed towards me, return it back to its source, return it back with complete unconditional love." Because maybe we're still angry about a lot of other people, okay? Or we're angry about what they did. So you give it back to them with unconditional love, okay? And what it was taught was to say it to yourself, to both eyes, by looking in a mirror 3 times, you see. And another good one is where you can say, even though I have these thoughts and feelings of sadness or whatever, you know, I fully accept myself. And so it's a whole lot different type of process, you know, for that piece. And as for the body scan, they're showing a lot of evidence of the fact of learning how to just connect with the breath. And so a body scan is one of me helping to guide, or you can learn how to just guide yourself by just connecting with the top of the crown of your head, going down to each individual parts of your body and all the way down to the feet. You know what the interesting part is? Most people don't really connect and remember their parts of their body. The only time that they do is when they have pain or they're handicapped, you know what I mean? And so what that does, that reinforces it and makes it even bigger. And they've shown that by focusing on the pain, it accelerates and makes the pain even bigger. So it's one of, just knowing how to be present with it and accepting it for the way it is and reviewing it. Many people have said to me, oh my gosh, I forgot that I had this part of my body and that one, and it's kind of neat.
And the first affirmation you spoke of about returning the negativity back with unconditional love, you had said before that can be done even if that person is no longer with us.
Exactly
it works
right.
even if the person is passed on.
Yeah, they're passed on. Because oftentimes, from my perspective, is that the ancestors, where we come from, and those who have, that unconsciously their belief system still stays in us in an energetic way, in cell memories as well too. That we being in our mother's womb and her mother being in her womb, those issues get passed on. So by giving it all back to them so that they can heal and deal with it, because what we have a tendency of doing is creating codependency and hearing people that we want to fix them always, but we never think about being kind and fixing ourselves,
It sounds really good. And Dr. Cusher, you want to just touch on what you'll be covering during the workshop?
Sure. I think I'll talk a bit about grief and loss during the holidays, why we experience more of the grief and loss during holidays and certain times of the year, and what we can do to help with that. Also talking about intergenerational issues, just similar to what Walter was saying, looking at what we expect from our children, what our children expect from us, what we want, why we have different wants and needs, how to accept those different wants and needs, how to get what we need from others when it's not available from our own children, and looking at the grief and loss from normal life events, not just from death, but it could be from, I'm not able to do the physical things I used to do. I'm not working anymore. My identity's changed.
Even you've downsized a home and you're living in a new location, or even things like that you've said in the past can trigger feelings of loss.
Big adjustment issues,
And for a lot of those, engagement with others, social engagement is going to be very helpful. And if somebody's gone from the home that they're familiar with and they're in a new place, continuity can be very important. So like somebody who's engaged in the senior center, for instance, has that continuity of having been engaged in the senior center when they're in their own home and having been engaged in it again after they've moved to a different living situation.
And creating that, hopefully that network of friends and just getting out and staying busy. We try to offer a variety of things to appeal to people, whether it's physical activity or playing cards or engaging in another activity or a craft or just seeing a movie. Hopefully there's a little something for anybody, whatever their interests are.
Right. I think a year ago or so there was a nursing student from UMass who was interested in doing some research on engagement and depression in the senior center. So I started looking up some of the research that already existed, and just having people come into the senior center or having Meals on Wheels go out to them decreased isolation and decreased depression. So, you really get a lot of bang for your buck with the senior center, so to speak.
We'd like to think so.
That's great.
Thank you for being a part of it.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, for anyone that might be tuning in that's under 60 and might be nodding along to this program, thinking, well, what about me? I'm not a senior and I've got issues with my parents or my siblings or whatever. Dr. Cusher, I know you work with Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services on different programs, and we want to make sure people are aware that that's a resource for them here in town. They do great work, and we'll be displaying their contact information on this program. So if you want to just put in a little plug for Shrewsbury Youth and Family.
Oh, sure. Sure. They're actually, I think, a semi-independent organization. They can serve people in the Shrewsbury community and outside the Shrewsbury community. They do take health insurance. They have a core group of several clinicians and interns, and they provide services for children, adolescents, young adults, and older adults. And they do individual therapy, they do outreach, they do mental health first aid training. We're teaching people what to look for, if somebody's got a serious mental illness, which is exactly what we're talking about, how to identify that. If you're a Shrewsbury resident, they also have, I think, a sliding fee scale, so that if you don't have insurance, you can get services.
The big thing is just, reaching out, and
Sure.
we'll figure it out either at the senior center or
Yeah.
Shrewsbury Youth and Family. Help is available. Nobody should feel that they should hold back from getting help because of a, health
Right.
insurance or financial
I agree.
issue.
Yeah.
Help is out there. Well, before we wrap up, we just want to thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Dr. Cusher and Walter, for being here today, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the workshop.
Great.
And we hope that if you're tuning in, that you'll take advantage of the program that's being offered at the Senior Center. Again, the workshop information will be displayed during this program, and if you're watching this after the fact, help is still available. You can reach Dr. Cusher or Walter at the Senior Center, and we'll be showing that number there. So again, I thank you for joining us, and the three of us are hoping that you can enjoy and really thrive this holiday season.
Great.
Thanks again for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.